All right, let's jump right into it. Thank you, everybody, for attending episode 42 in Let's Talk Recruiting. Moving forward, though, when it comes to talking about tech tools, we're going to kind of use this session as a jumping off point for this topic. So as you probably know, almost all of these panels have sort of been one-off topics, various discussions that we just have as a group of peers in recruiting. But going forward, we're going to start to develop out a couple of channels, so to speak, where it's sort of ongoing and consistent conversations around a topic. This topic is going to be around tech tools and all the tools that are available for us as recruiters in the industry. And on our panel today is Marvin Smith and Eric Jackery, who have most graciously volunteered to lead this ongoing series of content that focuses on recruiting tools. We're going to call it Tool Time. It's going to be on the third Tuesday of each month, starting in September. So it'll just allow us to have this consistent conversation where we can go deep on that area. We have another one that just started yesterday around D&I, and this one is going to be around tech tools. So our topic for today, what tools and tricks to use in recruiting. With us, we have I think we're bi-coastal again. We have Courtney Lewis out of Atlanta, Marvin Smith out of Seattle, Matthew Liptak out of Boston, and Eric Jackery out of Phoenix. So we're kind of jumping over the Midwest, and myself in Los Angeles. So what we're going to do, as usual, kind of do a round robin and talk. Each panelist will bring up a topic, and we'll go into detail around that area. So Courtney, how about we start with you?
All right. So the one tool and trick that I really use and I have found to be very useful for me and most effective is leveraging social media. That has been my go-to for everything. Especially that's one I can brand my employer. I know some employers use marketing companies, but for me, I love to at least try to market my employer myself as well, because sometimes I can kind of control some of the information that's being put out there. Say like for instance with Indeed, we have reviews that are on Indeed, and a lot of employees look at Indeed when they're getting ready to apply for positions with your company. So I definitely try to see if I can get people who work for the company to, see if I can partner with them and say, hey, you mind going on Indeed and putting a review for us so that others will know how great we are. And especially if you have a company that may not have that many great reviews or may not even have any reviews. So I love to use that as my employer branding when I get ready to do recruitment. And then also I use that as my way to get positions out there, especially my hard to recruit positions. I love to use that because people will do word of mouth. Sometimes you'll do one posting, say like on Facebook, and then everyone decides to post about it. And then sometimes people come back and say, hey, you know what? I seen you had this position posted a few months ago. Do you still have this or do you have something else? So I definitely love to leverage social media because it is the one thing you can use to get the most information out to the most amount of people.
Courtney, do you ever recruit team members from a department kind of like in an ongoing manner? So let's just say in the marketing department, we'll say social media marketing. I'm just throwing a topic out there, Will. Mm-hmm. So like anytime you have a new rack for that area, do you kind of have like a list of, hey, these 4 people on that team will repost under their accounts? Or is it kind of like a general messaging, or do you hold accountable in any way?
Yes, I have definitely done that. But I try to make sure that I try to get everyone to repost, because sometimes you never know who knows who. So it's one of those things where I get as many people as I know, especially within the company, to repost. Again, that's that way when I have hard to fill positions, say like if I have a position that's in a location that's really a hard market, say like for instance in Georgia, we have a market that's really in a real rural area where no one's really there. So I can get it, if I can get the team leaders from that facility to post, if I can get other employees to post, or I can get anyone else to post it, I try my best. So I don't just stick with, that particular area. I try to get as many people to post, because again, you just don't know who knows who.
So I've taken a different approach where I drill down to if you're in that job role, so it would be marketing, social media, I would only, and I had put like a group in Outlook. So when a rec came out there, and this is sort of me on the back end, so I could see them coming through. If the recruiter did it, great. I'd be on the back end to kind of ping those team members who were in that role to try and get them to post, because in theory, they would most likely know people in that role. To your point though, hey, everybody knows everybody. It's not like that. I just thought I could get more bang for my buck if I asked a software developer to post a software developer job.
Right. I mean, sometimes you can get that if you really want to get really specific about, okay, look, let me see if I can get you to find someone who's similar to you to be able to fill that role. But a lot of times it's one of those things where I've had maybe a forklift operator that may know someone that's a great team leader. And although, they may not be able to, even though they're not a team leader, they knew someone who else was a great team leader. So it just kind of really depends. It's one of those things where, again, you just don't know who knows who.
Yeah, I hear you. How about the rest of the panel?
One of the things I wanted to add was that when you send out the request for your colleagues to do social media extension or forwarding, you can also send a link. So if you do your, for example, a LinkedIn search with your first level connection, you can then take that link and then send it out.
Mm-hmm.
So people will actually just click on the link and it searches their first level connections, which helps with referrals as well. So you can actually get them a lot further down the path.
Right.
We use the ATS to actually do a thing called social distribution. So our ATS social distribution tool that actually has automated timed social media type posts that post to Twitter, LinkedIn, Facebook, anything that we're using. We can have anyone in the company get on this social distribution tool, and it times these things out throughout the day with our taglines, with our branding, and it really does a good job of blasting things out there on these different social media outlets automatically, which is nice. And it gleans from our job board or our career pages each job and takes maybe 2 at a time or 3 at a time and blasts them out there.
Mm-hmm. So the only thing I found was, because I know with us we use JobVite, and I know JobVite will send it out to different social media platforms. The only thing that I found was that the only way people were able to see it is if they were looking for our particular company. And again, that's when you really want to do that employer branding through social media, because if you get your name out there, people are starting to look for your company, and they'll start, researching your company and saying, okay, what positions are out there for that company. But that's the only thing that I kind of had an issue when I came up to the ATS. So I kind of still do it throughout my social media so that I'm able to make sure that people are not only just seeing it through my company, but they're seeing it through me. And then I try to make sure that I'm a great representation as well.
I really like to rely on the social data once you identify the folks that you're looking for. I sort of work the other way and try to map them to certain skills that I'm trying to find. And so I use the social data to augment what I might have from one source. Let's say LinkedIn is a prime source that we're getting the information from. I like to use some tools that will aggregate the information from other places. So in my role, I'm more concerned about not the inbound kind of thing that you're talking about, where we're pulling information in, that giant magnet that's out there, and like Matthew was talking about, but the outbound, how we disrupt people that are, that are targeted and right for us. So take the initiative to get them. So it's kind of a little old school on that. So.
Does anybody get so deep? Like I've started to use the tool HubSpot, which is a marketing tool, right?
Yeah.
In their concepts of UTM, I can't remember what it stood for, but basically it was the link, right, that you could give out and it would track back any activity that came from that. Have you guys ever heard of, and I never did it because it's too tedious to actually do it, but I always thought it would be cool that, hey, if I give this link, kind of Eric, to your point about handing a link to somebody, to the engineering department, and if they shared that link, the source would come back to the engineering department. If that person clicked on it, went and applied, and it followed it through. I haven't seen anything that did the full life cycle like that, where you, in a quick and easy way to use. But to me, it would be like a great rewarding system for people who were giving back the referrals and sharing and stuff like that. Has anybody ever heard of a more elaborate link sharing around?
So for JobVite, if I send the link out to the individuals throughout our company, they can send their link to the, people that they refer. And once they click on their link, it'll send back and tell me who it was that referred and who it was. It'll let me know in the ATS that it was referral and by whom it was referred.
And they have to go into JobBite to get the link, right? Is that?
Well, I send them the link, or they can go into JobBite if they have access to it. So say, like, for instance, if I want to send it out to, like you said, the marketing team, and I want to say, okay, do you guys know anyone? I can send them the link through, put in their email address and say, hey, if you know anyone, send them this link. And then it'll send me back and let me know that person referred someone.
I think I interrupted somebody. Was somebody saying something?
Nope.
No? Okay. All right, well, Courtney, that was excellent. Yeah, I think that it's like almost an employee referral program, layered social media on top of it and stuff like that. So very interesting. Marvin, let's jump over to yours.
Great. Just a little bit about myself. I worked on a centralized talent sourcing team that builds critical talent pipelines for 10 different skill sets that Lockheed Martin needs now and in the future. So it's a center of excellence kind of position. And so, I'm kind of specialized in what I do. What I'm involved in is the talent engagement piece. So if you thought about the recruiting process, sort of end to end, for most of us, it starts with doing some research on a talent pool that you're trying to identify and see who's part of that. The next stage might be doing the research on the individual people, discover who they are, identify contact information. And then the third piece would be, okay, let's engage them some way. And usually we use email and those kind of things. And then kind of the next step is to vet them in terms of an interview. And then if they make the cut, go through the rest of the process. So in my world, I look for tools that maybe covers a multitude of those phases. And so what I want to focus on today is Seek Out, which is a tool that allows me to do several things. One is I can begin by discovering what that talent pool is. I can look at white papers through that platform. I can look at the skill mapping from competitors. You can put a job description in from Lockheed and it will identify the people with the skills that work for the competition and other companies that would bring that information back. So they're using a little bit of AI in that process. They have some graphs that allow us to map the talent to where they live and sort of give you some visualization of data that you can share with hiring managers and, sort of build your case that you know what you're doing, that you're truly a talent advisor. And then it allows us to identify profile information, and not only just on its foundational elements or taking LinkedIn public profiles and updating those, but you also can bring in, if you're working on technical jobs, GitHub and other places to bring in other kinds of information. So like we were just talking about with Courtney, sometimes it's that other profile information from different communities that allow us to have a more fully vetted, well-rounded idea of who the person is. And then it integrates within our CRM, and that's something that's very important. So our tech stack, our Brashring is our ATS, Avature is our CRM, and Stack, and then Seek Out kind of integrates nicely with that. They have an API that allows us to move the data right from Seek Out into the CRM, and we run our outreach campaigns through that. So a lot of what I do is design the messages, thinking about how we can best be empathetic with our target audience and provide things that will stimulate them to respond to us. So that's kind of it now in a nutshell.
So Marvin, you're using Seek Out to gather the data and then it goes into Aperture to engage the data
Right.
slash people. Okay.
Yeah. So we could, so it, you know, it gives us, it's one source of information. I don't rely just on one tool. I try to bring in as many different tools as you can, but at a certain level, LinkedIn Recruiter information may have a little bit more because there are profiles on LinkedIn Recruiter that aren't public, but most of the services we see, the platforms, are buying LinkedIn public profile information from most source and then adding to that, you know, and using other tools to bring in email information and that sort of thing. And so if you wonder why a lot of the tools are similar, that's why, is they're kind of all starting at the same place.
What if somebody didn't have a CRM? Could they engage on Seek Out?
Sure.
Okay.
Yeah, they have their own drip marketing outreach built into the platform. So yeah, it's a freestanding platform that way. We don't use it that way because we want to track through a centralized source of data.
Right. So you got 3 layers, right? ATS, CRM, and then the Seek Out layer. I say that as I know how heavy you are into tools. I don't know how many companies get to have that much toys to play with.
Yeah. Well, sometimes it'd be easier to have one tool.
Yeah.
I think that's what we're all looking for.
For the rest of the panel, have you ever used Seek Out or anything similar to it, or the concept?
I used a tool called Engage Talent. I was talking to Marvin about this, and the Engage Talent tool was similar to that. It's an artificial intelligence tool. I believe they were just acquired, actually, but the last company I worked, we invested in, looked at various artificial intelligence tools that added a layer to our sourcing. And what it did was it extracted information, gleaning it from the web of all types of the candidates that we would look at in various companies, and it would rank them and hone in on the candidates that were, in their eyes, using their data science, looking for roles, actively, possibly looking or interested in leaving their current company. So if a hiring manager gave us a company that we wanted to target, we would use this tool to actually look at the candidates we wanted to target at that company and see, based on their rankings, who is going to be actively looking for a job in the near future. And it was a very interesting tool using a lot of different sources. They had a lot of data scientists on their staff and using their artificial intelligence, and it actually provided us their contact information and so forth. We usually ended up going to LinkedIn Recruiter to reach out and so forth. But the problem with that tool was that their contact information and some of the sources that they gathered wasn't always accurate. And that was the big issue with it. But interesting tool, to say the least.
I think the marketing term is called intent, right? Buyer intent, trying to determine intent. Have
Right.
you seen anything impressive when it comes to hiring around determining intent?
Yeah, I would say, I mean, I think it was a matter of, you know, who we wanted to target and go after that possibly would be turning into a passive candidate down the road that we would have never known just by going on LinkedIn Recruiter and sending out our outreach.
Eric, were you gonna say something? You look
Yeah,
at
to follow up with Marvin's discussion on Seek Out, many of the recruiters and sourcers in the country really love Seek Out because of the large Boolean strings you can put. There's basically limitless. So you can put 1,000, 2,000, 3,000 character strings for target companies, target schools, and it just handles it just wonderful. You can share them with colleagues. It just does the Boolean regardless of how long, and exceeds some of the limits that are on actually LinkedIn in a way that is profoundly different. So if you are into building big strings and saving those big strings and sharing it with colleagues, it's really robust and does that extremely well.
Interesting. Marvin, how long have you been using Seek Out? Because it's a relatively new company, right?
I've been using it since its inception. So I met Anup Gupta, who was the CEO and co-founder of the organization early on. He's Seattle based, so I met him and have, you know, got to know some of them. So what I really like also is they've continued to improve the product over time, add more features, and they did a lot of initial research with recruiters and sourcers to say, what do you need in a product? This is what we have. And so there's been a lot of people like Eric and others that have probably influenced how they have rolled out that product. The other thing that's kind of cool for those of us that are in the defense industry is they have a new feature that has to do with determining the probability of somebody having a security clearance. And so you could look for security clearances. They have a diversity filter on it. They have a veteran filter on it. So they've done a nice job of trying to market to the folks that are the users and make improvements on it. So it's an interesting tool.
Excellent. And I'm a big fan of the layering model that you got going on. I've known Marvin for a long time. We're on the CRM world in recruiting. I love CRMs laying on top of the ATS, and that CRM really is everything you go out and collect goes in there. So you can use multiple different tools, but you're always building that CRM. It's like the database of record, and then that's where you engage off it, but keep getting updated through tools. So that having that layer for the long-term strategic sourcing recruiting, I always thought was crucial. All right, any last notes on Seek Out?
What's interesting is that LinkedIn, if you talk to your LinkedIn recruiting contact, they're getting very nervous when it comes to the artificial intelligence. And they're starting to look at companies to maybe acquire a company that has that artificial intelligence background that they can implement into the LinkedIn recruiter tool eventually. So I think that that's going to come. And I think LinkedIn's going to get involved in that somehow. But they were getting very nervous when we started looking at other tools like, that had that artificial intelligence layer to attract candidates and source candidates, because they didn't have that piece. And we always question why LinkedIn Recruiter didn't have a more robust, maybe artificial intelligence arm to it to be able to draw candidates in or source candidates in a different way. But I think that they started catching on to that. So you may see something in the near future.
Matt, do you want to jump into your item?
Yeah, so my name is Matt Liptak. I'm the Director of Talent Acquisition for Mimecast. We're an email security company here in Boston. We're a global company, been around since 2003, and I lead a team here of talent acquisition specialists, recruiting all sorts of different roles. But when I've come into many different companies, I've looked at streamlining and making job easier for the individual recruiter. And one of the big areas, and I know a lot of companies did away with reference checking, but I've always implemented an automated reference checking tool into most of the companies I've worked at. And what this does is it takes the reference checking process out of the hands of the recruiters, the liability per se, and puts it in the hand of another type of tool, which actually can perform the reference checking, report back to us with a full report to give to a hiring manager, and actually also has a passive candidate sourcing tool on the back end of it. So in case a reference turns into a candidate, can give us that information as well and can show that candidate's interest or that passive candidate's interest. So the automated reference checking tool, it's worked well for us. And, the recruiters really, they disliked checking references, and it was took time consuming piece. And so implementing this particular tool helped out quite a bit.
Matt, does your team do reference checking at the end of the hiring cycle or somewhere in the middle or before?
Yeah, it's a good question. What's interesting about this tool, they would want you to do the reference checking as you were involved in the interview process. But I've always believed in doing it at the end of the recruitment cycle. And to this day, this team still does it at the end of the recruitment cycle because, candidates are a little reluctant to give up their references during that interview cycle. But this tool actually claims to be better off used in the interview process because you can get the reference checks and then take them into the interviews with you to ask certain questions and so forth. But I still do it at the end.
Are your recruiters mining those references? I'm assuming they can get it through a report or some type of see who's who. Or are they actively doing that? We did that at the last company I was at, used this as a target list.
Yeah, that's excellent too, and it gives the references an option to elect themselves as a passive candidate at the end of that particular questionnaire, or whatever they're getting in that report. And it reports back to us those passive candidates, which is pretty good. So.
How about the rest of the panel around references and that network of it? Any engagement around that?
I haven't been with an organization that's checked references in 20 years.
Really?
Yeah, Microsoft doesn't check references. The Gates Foundation didn't check references, and we don't at Lockheed Martin. So I'm impressed that Matthew is still doing it, because it is, you know, in the old days, it was great. You know, I can just see Eric grinning from ear to ear on how he used to parse reference information for prospects. But so I congratulate you for doing it. How did you convince people that you should do that, particularly your legal department?
We still get a call, and not every role, but we still get a call by hiring managers to pull references. And you know, we're not a tiny company. We're a 2,000 person company, but I'm talking the last 3-4 companies I've been at, they are still pulling references. Now, granted, the larger companies don't do references, or they stop doing reference checks, but I still am getting asked by hiring managers, did we check the references on that candidate? Have we verified anything about that candidate? So I think you'll see the differences. I mean, again, we're trying to do checks on every position, but there's times when we don't do them on all positions. So, but yeah, so from a legal aspect, this tool actually is better for us, because again, it takes the liability out of the recruiter's hands from asking all these sorts of questions that they may not know that they shouldn't be asking. And this tool actually is letting the candidate sign off on the liability, saying that their references can actually say any type of feedback that they would like, and then we get the report back. And I have to be honest with you, in these automated reference checking tools, we have stopped offers from going forward because of these tools.
Yeah, I've seen it from the recipient side. So being a director and a vice president, I've been able to be the references for other people who have used Checkstra or Skill Survey. And as a busy hiring manager, being able to give those references and not be misquoted, but be able to actually put my own words in the way I want, to be able to actually grade someone has been great. They're very, very convenient. It's self-serve. It's very, it actually has helped me develop other better non-automated reference checking because of the questions and how they did it. I've borrowed a few of their ideas when I've helped other companies build reference checking that weren't automated in this way because they're so well done. So the two main ones are Checkstra and, of course, Skill Survey. They compete almost like an arms race. When one comes up with a good idea, the other one tends to copy it or mimic it in a very similar way. But Skill Survey was the first to actually ask every reference, would you at some point be interested in pursuing work with this company and collect them as a potential candidate in a sourcing database, not just a reference database? And then Checkstra replicated that shortly thereafter.
You know, and one of the chat, somebody asked the question in the chat, who would give a reference of someone that's going to say something negative about you? You'd be surprised with this tool how many people that they give as references have said negative or impactful statements that stopped the hiring process, and they were their actual reference that they provided. Because this tool makes them sign a liability waiver when they provide their references, saying, I am giving away my references. They can say what they want about me, and they sign that waiver, and it puts the liability in the candidate's hands. And then we get an anonymous report back of each reference. We don't know who said what. We don't know how it was ranked as far as which reference said what and so forth. But we know that there was comments or there was scores that were lower than we would have thought of a reference that they gave.
Yeah, I think a lot of it, if you've ever heard of Ray Dalio from Bridgewater, he has an internal program called DOTS, D-O-T-S. It's on YouTube if you're into the stuff. But but his label was the believability factor. And it's really like, who's giving me this information? So to your point about, hey, I'm giving a reference of my buddy or a coworker, of course, they're going to give me a good piece. So noting who is the source of that reference, right? Is it somebody I reported to? Is it somebody I worked with? Is it a peer? Factoring that in, that source of it, because yeah, to everyone's point, well, of course, I'm going to give you a friend that's going to say, most likely, I hear what you're saying, Matt, but most likely it's a good reference. But when, like, I came from agency days, and we wouldn't even submit a resume without doing a reference check, not background check, but a reference check. And it was always, who did you report to? The manager. So I focused on engineers, and I ate off of reference checks. That's how I did all my networking and building and gathering information, was talking to the managers you used to work for. And I'd kind of relay that conversation to the manager that's looking at hiring this person, try and get that peer-to-peer piece of it. So yeah, I think, but Marvin, real quick, you guys still do background checks though, right?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right.
That's the, so one thing I just have to hitchhike on what you said about, when I was in the third party world and was a serial contract recruiter, I used reference checks, the automated ones, as part of my value add that I brought to the process. So that with some of the smaller companies I was working with, it was great. I mean, you come in with this aggregated presentation of the qualities of somebody, and it really helped reinforce, my value back to them. So yeah, and I came from the agency world. So yeah, I agree with you. And that's why I said to Matthew, I was pleased that he was doing it, because I think it really builds value back to the internal clients he serves. So
yeah, no, I agree with you.
Yeah, when I moved from agency to in-house, so Matt, I'm the do it at the front end guy. I get why they do it at the back end, but I was always amazed. I've never met a corporate recruiter yet that did it besides at the very end. And I'm like, okay, what am I missing here? Because I just see the value in it. And usually it came down to a time issue, or to your point, well, they may be wary of giving those out till you kind of down the street a little bit. But I think as we get into kind of the broader scope of things going on in the country about uplifting people, my thing is, hey, you gotta, if you want to grow in your spot, you need to do good work and make sure everybody knows about that good work through your references. So I would like behoove people who's trying to get into a management role or director level role, get those references in the conversation as quickly as possible. That's, as a consultant, I would always introduce, here's the people I've worked for, here are their contact information. Feel free to call them and get a reference on me, like on the first conversation. Because if you're doing good work, I want people to talk about it. But yeah, that's a whole, we could go deep into that one, into the whole reference world. But Marvin, the reason why I bring up the background versus references, the last company I was at, we did reference checking, but not background checking.
Oh, really?
Yeah, really? It was the music business, so there's reasons for it. But it was interesting. So it's like, okay, we do the references, but not background. I get it. Makes sense.
I used to when I was in the work for several startups, and I used to frighten our engineering team by telling them we're going to start doing drug tests, and that was always fun to watch them start squirming. So I don't think they're not. Is anybody doing drug tests now besides defense?
No, we still do drug tests. At the company that I was with, we did drug tests. It was required. I think it really depends upon the role, because if I have someone that's going to get on heavy equipment, I need to make sure that you're not under the influence. So we did that. I
remember asking a major tech company, do you guys do drug tests? And they said, no, if we did, we'd have to fire half the employees.
Engineers.
Yeah, industry probably plays a key role. All right. Please note, I'm not naming names. So I'm just sort of commenting. All right. Thank you, Matt. Eric, let's jump over to you.
Yeah. I have three quick things I wanted to add up, being respectful of everybody's time here. The first one is if you have not tried the newest version of Microsoft Edge in 2020, your computer might have already downloaded it and has the new Chromium edition. Microsoft, of course, was Internet Explorer. They abandoned that a few years back, went to Microsoft Edge as their new browser to compete with Chrome and Firefox, and it suffered. in the past year, they've decided to be part of the Chromium kernel and actually use the Chromium base, which is what Google is based on, Google Chrome, and then add a bunch of additional features that Microsoft wanted to have. So if you've not used the new Edge browser, it's probably going to be updating your system automatically, but just double check. It's on version 84 dot something, and just see if it's there. Now, if you have the new Chromium Edge version, there's some extra amazing features in there, such as collections. Look at the collections capability, the ability to collect many websites or many resumes or profiles on LinkedIn into a collection of bookmarks. There's also the ability to, if you use a vertical monitor like I do for many years, I've rotated my monitor to portrait, to be able to actually have vertical tabs on the left column as opposed to your tabs across the top. So you can have 30, 40, 50 tabs open on the left-hand margin. It's built into that particular beta browser. So just be aware of it. For those of you who can't download Chrome because maybe you're in a bank or a defense contractor, they won't let you download Microsoft Chrome, this is a great way to actually have all the plugins and add-ins and extensions that are able in Chrome. You can go to the Chrome store and install all those on your Edge browser. Plus, you can go to all the Microsoft store and download all the extensions available just for that. So it gives you a tremendous toolbox of new and unusual extensions that you never had on Edge before. Any questions on that before I move on to number 2?
Yeah, are you that guy that has 30 open tabs on his browser?
Oh, yeah. And then I put them in collections and keep them for later.
Good.
That's always, I'm amazed at people who are like that. I'm like, how do you find anything? I know where it is. Like, oh,
you can put them in little organizational groups. It makes it very easy. Many of us are out there. I never put my toys away when I was a kid either. They're just always handy. The second tool I wanted to make sure people understand and use, which is also very fundamental to what we do, is the ability to send out emails, templates. Mobile email or mobile responsive emails are those mail messages that come on your mobile phone that actually shape and size and change the font so it plays nice with your Google phone or your Android phone versus your Apple phone, which has different font characteristics. Adjust when you rotate your phone from one direction to the other, it actually reformats the message. It's called mobile responsiveness. Now, many recruiters have no idea how to do this. And if you're using your ATS or CRM tool, there's oftentimes a capability in these tools to actually add code so you can have a very nicely formatted. And some people just put photos in or frames or call to action buttons, but they're very rudimentary usually. If you use a site called, it's pronounced Stripo, be very careful when you type this in. It's STRIPO.email, not .com, not .co, but .email. I put it in the notes on the left here, in the comments. But if you go there, you can sign up for an account. A free account will give you each of your recruiters on your team up to 2 templates per month they can lay out and design, and then you can share them with the team. But for your main campaign, your initial contact emails, your follow-up emails, maybe your surveys, maybe your confirmation of appointments, build attractive emails that you can actually send out of Outlook, you can send out of Gmail, you can send out of most applicant tracking systems that support HTML5 formatting. And most recruiters have no idea how to build this stuff. If you have a marketing team that does it, great. But if you don't have a marketing team, Stripo is the easiest way for non-technical people to build amazingly professional-looking emails that get better responses. And it's free. You can pay for subscriptions if you want more whistles and bells. But I've had an account for 2 years, and they keep getting better. They have tons of templates you can borrow, modify yourself, much like the big email campaigns like SurveyMonkey or MailChimp or a number of the tools. So those are my 2 big takeaways. My last tip of the day is simply just a cautionary tale. I know many of the recruiters on the team use LinkedIn Recruiter. And whenever I talk to anybody who uses LinkedIn at all, I tell them, please stop using the pick lists in LinkedIn. If you don't believe me, try this. Go to LinkedIn for your zip code or for your state or your city. Simply select the word director as a current title and run that search and see the number. The next time, go in and put director in quotes, which makes it a text or a Boolean search, or put in director and vice president in quotes. you'll see that by not selecting the items on the pick list, but actually putting in the Boolean, you get tremendously more candidates. Director picked from the pick list or director typed in quotes in Boolean are not the same search. They're completely different searches in LinkedIn. And if your recruiters are only doing one of those, picking from the pick list being the most common, if they're starting to type in technical recruiter, they see technical come up, they see recruiter on the pick list, they click it rather than putting technical recruiter in quotes. And they're missing thousands of candidates across the country every day. And I tell candidates, you need to do it both ways. Select the pick list and add the Boolean, but you're better off just to do just the Boolean. If you're only doing the pick list, you will get thousands of new candidates a day. And LinkedIn has 7 Boolean fields: company name, first name, last name, title, keywords. And always, when given a choice to have the pick list of titles or companies, try to type it in and put quotes, ands, and ors. You'll get much better results.
Eric, have you had a chance to play with the latest release?
Oh yeah, it's been out for over a year for many of the customers of LinkedIn. So yes, LinkedIn showed it at SourceCon 2019 in Atlanta, and they started rolling it out for some of their largest customers back then.
I mean, didn't LinkedIn just come up with the real latest release like a week or so ago?
You might have got it recently, but they've been rolling that out and fixing bugs for a year on that.
Huh.
Yeah, ZapInfo, where I recently worked, we've had to have there's 6 actually versions of LinkedIn Recruiter. When you add Sales Navigator, Recruiter Lite, the new version of LinkedIn Recruiter, the old version of LinkedIn Recruiter, and some of the other versions they have out there. So we've had to, and they're all slightly different. So you have to map all those.
All right, since you brought up LinkedIn Recruiter, I got to ask this. My table view is gone. Now I just see the summaries of people versus my rows. Am I imagining that the tables are gone now?
The layout, yeah, the GUI is different. The layout changed significantly between what they had in 2018 and 19 and what they have this year.
Anybody knows how to get my tables back? That's the view that I like, and it's gone now. Courtney, you're laughing. Do you know what I'm talking about?
The change. The change is tough. I'm telling you. I sometimes want to go back to the old, I don't know. They had these new interfaces on these, I don't know.
It's like once you get it down, they change it, and you got to get that one down, and then they change it again. So
Exactly right.
But to Eric, to your point, yeah, I've been doing the title suggestions or what they pop in there. I've been doing my writing quotes for that a long time, just because of the crazy different results you get for it. Hey,
Yeah.
Real quick on Stripo. So once I create a email template in that tool, how easy or how difficult it is to get from that tool into my Gmail or my Outlook?
Yeah, they have a button that says output to Gmail, LinkedIn, and 50 other clients that are out there. And then when you bring it in, for Gmail, for example, it just shows up in your draft folder, or in Outlook, it just shows up in your draft folder. And you can copy that draft and keep using it over and over and over again. So it does all the complex layout. Outlook is a real bugger to actually build HTML emails, and it's not like others. You have to be very good at table design. And they do all the magic so that even though you might be using the current version of Outlook or even Outlook 2016 or hopefully not 2013 version of Outlook in some companies, those versions did not support table-based or dynamic shifting of the email look. But they've figured out all the little hacks that you don't have to know and you don't have to worry about. So when you build it, it adjusts it for the different clients when you export it.
What I've done in the past around what do you go plain text email or a real pretty looking HTML email is if I'm just communicating with you, it's text looking, right? Sometimes I would even write HTML mails that look like text just so I could get the tracking around it, right, for the marketing purposes. But to your point, we were doing this one place where, hey, we had a large, this was in biotech, we had built out large pipelines over the years. We wanted to keep them abreast of company information. So it wasn't about, hey, I got this hiring need, can we talk? It was about keeping you informed about our company's molecule release or something like that. And then that's where the marketing team would make an elaborate looking HTML. To your point, because the recruiters didn't know how to code in HTML, because at that time you got to type in your P tags and your href to put in a link and all that stuff. So to have a tool all like that, I think is a great tool, especially for those special situations where it's not about a job where we're just communicating, but it's Thanksgiving, it's the end of the year, you just had a major product release, where now it's more visually pleasing and more informative. But do you do anything like that around broader scope HTML design?
Yeah, I'm shocked how companies will pay sometimes, you know, $50, $75, $100 an hour for a contract recruiter, but won't pay $75 to design an email that's professional, that goes to thousands of people sent by hundreds of recruiters for the company. Professionally designed email gets a much better response. That's why all the big marketing companies and B2C companies use designers to do this stuff. It's a cottage industry. You can pay someone to do it inexpensively, but these tools have gotten so good now, even a non-technical recruiter can drag and drop things that make, you know, average email. Mobile devices, all smartphones now support imaging and pictures on by default. Now, Outlook still by default does not show images, but many people turn it on because their company doesn't care if they show images or not, or they turn it on for that particular user. So you can actually put in a tagline or a lower disclosure at the bottom, please add us to your white label list or put us on your mailing list so that images are showed, or enable images for future emails. And candidates are familiar with this, but most candidates are using their mobile devices when they're looking for jobs. It's much more discreet. They don't want it to come to their corporate Outlook anyway. They want to come to their device. It's private, and many of them are using, you know, Outlook on this device. Many are using Gmail. Less and less are using Hotmail and AOL and and Yahoo. But you know, those all support HTML5 and show images, and you should be designing for those people.
Marvin, I'm going to jump a question for you, and I'm not trying to set you up or anything, but so you do a lot of pipeline development. I've been in that world again before too. We would use, when I was talking about those broader scope messaging, we would run a campaign, HTML email, make it look nice and pretty, and we would engage a pipeline, and we would track the open rates and the click rates if we were trying to get them to go somewhere, to kind of help determine, is this a healthy pipeline? Because if I had 200 people in my pipeline, but only 25 people are even opening my emails, do I really have 200 people, or do I have 25?
Right.
So you use that to kind of as a tell around you just call it the health of the pipeline. Did you ever do anything like that with your pipelines?
Of course, yeah. You know, I think that the open rate is not as important anymore as the click-through rate, the call to action. And that's really what we focus on. So we just finished a campaign in which we had an outreach to 5,000 people initially that had not, we hadn't had a conversation with, but were interested in us. And so you would think you would get a high click-through rate. We run what I think of as drip recruiting campaigns. So we send 4 emails iteratively to people, a cadence of 4. When they click through and answer it, then of course they go into a different bucket. But we averaged an 18% click-through rate on that. And so that's what we were measuring success by. And then ultimately how many people are hired is how you do it. So we think of it as a candidate life cycle. So initially the average open rate on the first email was 73%. The average open rate on the second email was in the 60% range, and all of them stayed about in that range. So for us, with the brand and the name recognition, it wasn't as important as what that click-through rate was and how many people were. And our call to action is an interview. So we've vetted these people as much as we can on paper and said, we need to talk to them, and we offer them that experience in terms of, you don't have to fill out an app or anything, we'll just talk to you. Sort of going back to what we think people want is a conversation to talk about their career and a potential career with Lockheed. So does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. Easier said than done, but it totally makes sense.
Yes, it's been hard to do, but we've managed to figure out how to use Avature to do that. So, and they're all automated, the sequences, so it's nothing manual. And then we've tied in a version of Paradox, some AI to do the automatic appointment scheduling. So the person in the call to action is then taken to another platform in which they see the recruiters schedule themselves. So it's been kind of interesting mapping those all together. I just think about them. I don't do the work. We have an in-house genius that does all that. So
it's always an expert on the team to see it through.
Yeah.
All right. Well, hey, so I know we've gone way over. Apologies for that, but good conversation. So it's kind of final closing comments, any notes, sort of do a round robin here and start with you, Matt. Any final comments or last things to say?
No, I think it's always good to evaluate new tools. And like I said, when I come into a newer team or inherit a newer team, take over a recruitment team, I always look for newer tools to use or evaluate some of the current tools they're using and poke around at some of the new tools that are out there and see if they make sense for the organization. So I think it's always good to see what new tools and tricks are brewing in the community.
Eric, last comments?
Yeah, every week, I think when you're having staff meetings, assign the week previous homework to someone on the team to bring something new that they discovered, because there's a plethora of new tools out there. And if you're having weekly meetings, it's just good nourishment for your team to have people out there discovering new tools and bringing them. You haven't got to use them all. You haven't got to implement them all, but you should have some vocabulary about what's being developed out there and know what they're used for.
And Marvin?
I agree with Eric, but at the same time, I think there's too many tools. One of my colleagues has a list of tools, over 1,000 Chrome extensions. You know, it started out with one and now it's 4 or 5 pages of extensions. And while it's good for research, most of us don't have that much time to use all of them. So on one hand, I'm always curious about what's new. On the other hand, I want to be practical in what I use to get the most bang for my buck out of my time that I have available and not spend it learning a new tool. So, you know, I'm always curious, but also cautious. Does that make sense?
Yeah, but he's the guy with all the tabs open. So, yeah, I get it. All right.
Yeah.
Courtney, let's jump to you for a final thought.
Well, yes, for me, I think it's always about finding the most effective tool that works best for you, because we're all different and we like to work with different things, and different things work for each person. So just finding what works best for you. If you're able to get with a company that's willing to put in the money for the different types of, tools that you can use, then hey, you partner with the right person, you get, take advantage of that. But if not, find those free tools that you can use. Social media, Indeed has free things. LinkedIn has free. Like he said, what was it? Spyro?
Stripo, right?
Stripo.
Yep.
I have to write that down. Stripo. Try to find as many free tools, because I know companies are more willing to use free than they are to use paid. So just find what works best for you.
Yeah, I would say recruiters are a lot like carpenters, and everybody's tool belt is a little bit different, and they're very proud and want their tools on their tool belt and to be in the spots and all that. So I think it's very similar to that world. All right. Hey, thank you everybody very much. I much appreciate it. I think that conversation was really good, and you can see the chat going on. I kind of lost track of the chat. I'm sorry. I get lost in the conversation sometimes. But thank you very much. Enjoy the rest of your day and enjoy your upcoming weekend. And I'll talk to everybody soon.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Bye.
Bye.